Let me tell you something that took me most of a lifetime to understand. At 98, I own far less than I did at 50. Far less. And I have never felt lighter, sharper, or calmer than I do right now, sitting here with my tea. That sounds backwards, doesn't it? We are told the years only pile up, more things, more worries, more loose ends. But the opposite became true for me, and not by accident. Here is what I want you to hear first. Letting go is not tidying. It is not giving up. It is not some sad surrender at the end of a life. Letting go is removing a load, a real, measurable load that your aging brain and body have been quietly paying interest on for decades. Because the things we keep, just in case, do not simply sit there. They tax you. Researchers can actually measure it in your stress hormones, in your sleep, in the very cells of your brain. I will show you exactly how. And the best time to set that load down is well before 70. While it is still a choice and not a crisis that someone else manages for you, so today, 5 honest things worth letting go. No hype, no shame, just what the evidence shows and what nearly a century has confirmed. Now, the word everyone reaches for is declutter. I want you to drop it, because this is not about organizing a closet. What scientists call it is allostatic load. Think of it as a running tab your body carries all day. Every demand, every unfinished thing, every choice left open, it all goes on the tab. And your body pays the bill in stress hormones, whether you notice or not. You do not get to opt out of the charge. Here is the idea that ties all 5 things together, so hold on to it. Your house, your choices, your obligations, your unfinished lists, they do not draw from separate accounts. They draw from one pool, one finite supply of attention and calm. Spend it on the wrong things, and you have little left for what truly matters. I will name that pool now, and we will pay it down across all 5. And let me be clear about how I choose what goes on this list. Every single thing I am about to name is something the research flags, not just an old woman's opinion. If the evidence is weak, I do not build advice on it. I never have. So keep watching, because here is the through line: 5 different piles, 1 hidden cost. Different in how they look, identical in what they take from you. So, thing 1. The Just-in-Case Stockpile. Years ago, a team at UCLA did something nobody had done before. Researchers Darby Saxby and Rena Rapetti, working with a group of anthropologists, walked into 32 ordinary homes with cameras and simply filmed how families actually lived. They called it the study of the everyday lives of families. And what they found stopped me cold when I read it. 75% of those families could no longer park a car in their own garage. The space built to shelter the car had been handed over entirely to stockpiled stuff, boxes, spares, things kept for a day that never came. Now here is the part that matters for your health. The women living in the most cluttered homes showed a flattened cortisol curve. Let me say that plainly. Cortisol is your stress hormone. In a healthy day, it rises in the morning and falls at night, so the body can rest and repair. In those cluttered homes, it refused to fall. It stayed up into the evening, the very same pattern doctors link to worse sleep and poorer health down the line. The stuff was not just sitting there. It was keeping their bodies on alert all day long. And before you tell yourself you should just ignore the mess, you cannot. There is biology in the way. At Princeton, Stephanie McMains and Sabine Kastner put people in a scanner and watch what a cluttered room does inside the brain. The objects literally compete with each other in your visual cortex, and the focusing region, an area called V4, simply fails. You cannot will it to work. Discipline has nothing to do with it. There is even a name for what comes next: illusory fatigue. You look at the pile, and you are tired before you have lifted a single thing. That heaviness you feel standing in the doorway of a crowded room, that is not laziness. That is your nervous system bracing, because every object you keep is a small ping, a tiny tap on the alarm. 1 is nothing. 1,000 is a life lived on quiet alert. So here is what I do. I pick one drawer, one shelf, and I clear the things kept, just in case, for a case that never arrived. One drawer is a beginning. The body feels it. Thing 2. The belief that more choices means more freedom. I told you everything draws from one pool. Here is the proof. Years ago, Roy Baumeister ran a now famous study. He put people in a room with warm chocolate chip cookies and a bowl of radishes. One group could eat the cookies. The other had to resist them and eat only the radishes. Then he handed everyone a hard puzzle, one that, secretly, could not be solved. The people who had spent their willpower resisting those cookies gave up on the puzzle far sooner. They had nothing left. Self-control, it turns out, behaves like a tank. Every decision you make draws it down. And do not let anyone tell you that is weakness. In 2022, Antonius Wheeler and Matthias Pesiglione looked inside the brains of people doing hard mental work for hours. They found something real and physical. A substance called glutamate actually builds up in the decision-making part of the cortex. Fatigue is not a mood, it is a chemical buildup, and only rest clears it, not pushing hard or not scolding yourself. So think about what we ask older people to do. Take Medicare. In the typical county, a person picks from around 48 drug plans. 48. 73% of seniors say it is simply too complicated. They spend about 3 hours wrestling with it and still land on a plan worth roughly 27% less than the best one they could have chosen. And 60% of them said, plainly, please give us fewer choices. That is the tank, drained dry, on a decision that should have been simple. Now here is the freeing part. Researchers Andrew Reed, Joseph Michaels, and Kosali Simon found that older adults are happiest choosing from just 2 to 4 options. As the choices pile up, satisfaction falls. Wanting less is not your mind slipping. It is your mind getting wise. It is the brain protecting the tank for what deserves it. So this is what to do. Consolidate the scattered accounts into one. Simplify the medication schedule so it runs on its own. Pre-decide the small repeating choices, the same breakfast, the same morning walk, so they cost you nothing. Spend your finite supply on the people and the decisions that actually matter, not on a 40th drug plan. That is not deprivation. That is aim. Thing 3. The friendships you keep out of obligation. Here is something that may surprise you. When people shrink their circle in later life, the world calls it sad, lonely, a withering. The research says the opposite. Laura Carcassonne built a whole theory on this, socio-emotional selectivity theory. When time feels endless in our youth, the brain collects people. New faces, new contacts, just in case they prove useful someday. But when time begins to feel finite, the brain makes a deliberate, healthy turn. It stops collecting, it starts protecting. And here is the proof it is about time, not age. Even young people facing a limited horizon make the very same turn. It is not decline. It is wisdom doing its quiet work. And remember the tank. Every obligatory lunch, every relationship you keep out of guilt, every coffee you dread but attend, it all demands something. Impression management, emotional labor, smiling when you are tired, all of it drawn from the same finite supply we spoke of in Thing 2. The weak ties are not free. They are billed to the same account. Now hear me carefully, because this is not about coldly cutting people off. I would never tell you to be cruel. It is about no longer mistaking a full calendar for a full life. Those are not the same thing. I have watched many people guard a wide, busy circle and quietly starve the 2 or 3 bonds that actually held them up. So take the energy you free and pour it into the few who feel like home. Here is what to do. Name your 3. The people who feel like rest, not performance. Protect those fiercely and let the obligations gently thin, not with a slammed door, but with an honest, kind loosening. And if thinning an obligatory friendship unsettles you, hear me. The real danger was never fewer people around you. It is something quieter, and I named it in my video on Loneliness Thing 4, the need to finish everything. Here is a relief I wish someone had handed me at 50. You do not have to finish the endless to-do list to stop it haunting you. There is something called the Zeigarnik effect, unfinished tasks nag. They tap you on the shoulder at 2 in the morning. The dishes, the letter, the call you keep meaning to make. Psychologists long assumed the only cure was to finish the thing. Then E.J. Masacampo and Roy Baumeister proved something better. You do not have to finish it. You only have to make a specific plan, not I'll get to it. A real if-then plan, when, where, and how. Tuesday at 10, at the kitchen table, I will call about the insurance. Once you write that down, the nagging quiets. The mind treats the plan almost the same as the deed. It lets go. Now, under all that nagging sits a heavier belief, and this is the real thing to set down. I call it the productivity mandate. It is the rule we learn in our working years, that your worth equals your output. That to rest is to fail. I know it well. In my 50s, I spent years overworking, certain there would always be more time. There was less than I thought. There is a gentle tool for this from a therapy called ACT. They call it cognitive diffusion. It simply means learning to see a thought. I must be useful to matter as just an old thought passing through. Not a law you are sentenced to obey, just weather. You can watch it go. And make no mistake about how heavy these open loops are. Annabelle Roberts found that people will actually pay money, lose money on purpose, just to close a nagging task sooner. That is what unfinished business weighs. We will literally pay to put it down. So here is what to do. Write the plan. Then set it down. And rest with a clear conscience. Your future is being practiced now, so practice rest, not only effort. The version of you at 80 is shaped by what you rehearsed today. And setting down the need to finish everything is not the same as being finished yourself. I made a video on that difference, and why a late start carries its own quiet advantage. Thing 5, the someday plan to downsize. This is the one with the highest stakes, because there is a world of difference between letting go on your own terms and having it done for you. One of the oldest findings in all of gerontology comes from 1963. 2 researchers, Aldrich and Menkoff, tracked frail older people who were forced to relocate suddenly from one place to another. What they documented was sobering. A sharp rise in death in the months that followed. The body, it turns out, does not take sudden, involuntary uprooting well. We are not furniture. You cannot simply move us and expect us to settle. Now let me be honest with you, because I never exaggerate the evidence. You might expect the research to say your possessions are crushing you. It does not say that about us. Catherine Roster and Joseph Ferrari found that clutter actually weighs far less on older adults than on the young. Our things are not just stuff. They are anchors of memory of who we have been. A young person drowns in clutter. We are steadied by it. So this is not your belongings are hurting you most. The danger is sharper than that. The danger is losing control of them later, all at once, when you are least able to bear it. That is why I want you to think of downsizing not as loss, but as mastery. You choose what stays. You hand the good chair to the granddaughter, while you can still tell her the story that comes with it. Erik Erikson had a name for this season of life: ego integrity. A life reviewed and gathered, not a fire sale. Because here is the alternative. You wait for the fall, the crisis, and then the choices get made for you by exhausted children and tired strangers, sorting a lifetime into boxes in a single weekend with no idea which things held your heart. The research is clear, too, that the elders who fare best are the ones who talked it through beforehand. Regret does not arrive all at once. It gathers, quietly, box by box, so start now. Not the whole house. Start the conversation and the slow sorting while it is still yours to lead, while your hands and your voice and your story are still in the room. So let me draw the thread through all 5, because it has been one thread the whole time. The stuff in the garage, the 48 drug plans, the obligatory lunches, the unfinished list at 2 in the morning. They look like 5 different problems. They are not. Every one of them is drawing from the same well, the same finite supply of attention and calm you carry through every single day. That is why letting go does not feel like loss once you have done it. It feels like air. You are not throwing things away. You are reclaiming bandwidth. You are buying back the quiet at the center of your own mind. Think back over the 5 with me quickly. The drawer you clear, so your nervous system stops its pinging. The choices you simplify, so the tank is full for what matters. The friendships you protect instead of perform. The list you plan and set down, so it stops haunting your sleep. The home you sort on your own terms, while the story is still yours to tell. 1. Well, 5 ways to stop draining it. And this is why I keep saying do it before 70. Not because 70 is a wall, but because doing it while it is a choice rather than a crisis is the entire difference between dignity and disorientation, between leading the change and being dragged by it. You have heard me say it before. Late is not the same as finished. I believe that with my whole heart. But I will add one honest thing tonight: earlier is lighter. So here is what I would ask of you. Not a grand plan, not the whole list. Tonight, pick one. Just one of the 5. Clear a single drawer. Cancel one obligation you have been dreading. Write one honest if-then plan for the task that nags you most. Start one conversation with someone you love about what comes later. The smallest step counts. The body and the mind register a beginning. And then tell me, down in the comments, which of these 5 is the hardest for you to let go of, and why? I ask because I genuinely want to know. I read what you write. I think about it. Some of you have taught me things at 98 that I did not understand at 70. If this is the kind of thinking you want to keep doing slowly, honestly, with the evidence in one hand and a long life in the other, then stay with me. Subscribe, and let us keep aging deliberately, together, because that lightness I described at the very beginning, sitting here with my tea, it is not something you earn only at 98. It is available to you tonight. In one drawer, one honest no, one plan set down. Do it now, before it becomes regret. And once you set down what you no longer need, something has to fill that space. I made a video on the one thing that protects the mind most after 65.